They actually did it. The people at Netflix, Matt Owens and all the casting crew actually pulled it off. I am so surprised. They made a live action that is honestly the best that's made so far. And yeah, I'm wearing a Dragon Ball t-shirt, a One Piece video, but it's cold and this is the only hoodie I got. I'll get a Gear 5th hoodie at some point. But all right, let's get into it straight away. I fell in love with this. I binged the first 7 or 6 or so episodes on the first day, and then I kind of slowly got through the last few because I had stuff to do, important shit. But I have to say, I loved it. I really did. It was a fantastic live action. Let's start off with the first part of the show. A lot of people at the trailers were like, "Oh, the jokes don't seem like Luffy," but I have to be honest, they pulled it off really well with the jokes because obviously, the way Hollywood works now, you have to have someone who's a bit, snappy, quippy, and all that jazz, right? But they pulled it off really well having Luffy make jokes because most of his jokes are, really stupid jokes, which are the type of jokes that Luffy would make, right? He wouldn't make well put together jokes, so a lot of them are stupid. The only well put together one I'd argue is the mutiny joke, where the news crew just goes off and he's like, mutiny, because he asked him to join the crew, right? That was probably my favorite joke out of Luffy. The one I remember the most was the one in the trailers, of course. I actually think there's a lot of things I loved about this series, but one thing, real quick, but I'm going to go by a play by play in my book real quick. But first thing I want to mention before I get into anything is that the way they're approaching this is a more, I'm going to say, seinen version of One Piece is great because we see the violence, we see the grays of the One Piece world way earlier on, and we actually see Zoro will cut people, or we see Gold Roger's execution, which is the weirdest part. We've never seen it before. They always cut away before we actually see him die. We actually see it, and he's laughing while he's dying. They're doing every bit of it very well, and we actually in this adaptation we get to see young Mihawk, we get to see young Shanks. I think we see young Boogie, but I'm not 100% sure. Young Shanks is the only one who's very obvious, along with Mihawk. And it's honestly great. Like, the way they have Gold Roger just kind of laughing the whole way up until he has to speak, and then, Garp being there at the execution, because we were told he wasn't there at the execution in the manga. He was fighting Shiki. Um, but I have to say, Garp being there was great because Garp plays a bigger role in the live action than he does in the show. I mean, he plays a big role in the show, but not till later on, right? We get all the reveals later on. Garp kind of plays the role of Smoker in this live action. To be honest, he plays the role as the person who's going after Luffy throughout the East Blue. Well, no one really is. Smoker just goes after him in Logtown, but because they skip over Logtown, Smoker's not introduced until the very end. There's a little post-credit scene where Smoker shows up. Now, unless I missed a post-credit scene, I thought people said Dragon was cast, and that's actually something I didn't see, right? I didn't see Dragon in this series at all. Was he in an Easter egg or something? He probably was at the execution, now that I'm thinking about it, so maybe that's it. But I have to Google it at some point, see who the actor is. But speaking of the actors, Inaki, I think his name is a brilliant Luffy. He does the energy really well, but also a lot of the scenes they do tone down, which I think works very well as well because you don't want it to seem so cartoony. But he still has that Luffy energy when he needs to, like the help me scene with Nami. They, instead of having him just walk up and go, "Of course," and screaming at the top of his lungs, right? They have him say it a few times. He's like, "Of course, of course, of course we will," right? It's like build up. They build it up, right? And it just seems a bit more strategic and more like realistic in a way, right? You're saying it, you're trying to reassure them, you say it again, and then you say it with a lot of energy, sort of that sort of way. It makes a lot of sense, and I really like how they're approaching Luffy's character, especially because I think every other character to me is very easy to adapt to live action, right? Zoro's just really cool. Nami is like just a thief who's like a thief with a lot of character to her, a lot of sass, a lot of like is go is go getter energy the right way to put it? Like, she's sneaky. Sneaky's the best way to do it. Or Sanji is just kind of all about the women. He's a good cook, that sort of thing. Like the basics aside from what you know about them, before all their stories are told, are already there. It's very easy to adapt, in my opinion, to live action. Luffy's the one who's a real struggle because he is very much that idealistic kid, and to try and make him likable as an adult and as someone who's, supposed to be a leader is very interesting. And actually, speaking on that leader quality, which is something I know, I'm just gonna jump around. I've decided that's all I want to do. They change up real quick with Zoro, where when Zoro gets slashed by Mihawk, they actually have him, be on the brink of death, and then we have a scene where Luffy and Nami fight. Essentially, she's like, you could have stopped him, and he's like, I won't stop anyone from going after their dreams. It's a very good moment because we see where Luffy's lines lie, where his like lines in the sand are for how he operates, and he won't stop people going after their dreams no matter what. But also, he does later on and contemplate, was that the right decision? Did he put Zoro in danger for what he did? You know what I mean? He does talk about that a lot throughout that episode. And we do see Luffy contemplate whether he's a good leader or not. And I think that was great because we do see that later on. But doing it now is very good because realistically you would if your first mate got destroyed like that. And a lot of different things happened to lead to that moment. I thought it was a brilliant way to have Luffy basically come to terms with being a leader a lot earlier, and to have him be a bit more serious as the season went on, which I think is great. You know what I mean? To kind of give a reason for Luffy to be a tad bit more serious than he would have been in the show. And I think they're doing a really good job of changing things around to make it fit a TV show better. Like Nami and like the whole Morgan's fight, Nami, Zoro, and Luffy fight together. And Nami's introduced way earlier. She sneaks into the Marines. That type of stuff. Which, by the way, Emily Rudd plays Nami perfectly. Honestly, perfectly. Because originally we thought, oh man, she seems like she's a bit low energy. But again, in the trailers. But my god, it's not like that in the show. And when it is, it's really like, it's because, man, like she's contemplating what she has to do with Arlong. And then you see she changes slightly. The voice becomes more upbeat after Arlong is gotten rid of. Speaking of Arlong, though, because this is a big point of contention for a lot of people, I think they did the Fishman designs really well. I will say, I'm assuming they obviously have thought about this, but Hachi isn't in the live action, right? They just have the other two guys. Hachi, as far as I know, I didn't see him, and he doesn't fight Zoro. Instead, Zoro and Sanji fight the Fishman Crotty guy in the live action. And I mean, besides the fact that guy, man, I couldn't imagine putting on that amount of makeup. Same with Erlong and all that, man. That's a lot, man. I couldn't imagine it. Fair play to you. That must have been a pain in the arse. But that fight was really cool. We got to see Zoro and Sanji fight together. I also like how in this live action they seem to be using the environments a lot more. Like Zoro runs up the side and slashes people with his sword like that, and Sanji's like kicking around and stuff, and he's just kicking through the Baradier. He's moving through the Baradier. Or with Luffy, he was like in the Alvida fight, he was swinging from the top of the flag, or things like that. You know what I mean? And then obviously, they changed around the Syrup Village thing where it all took place in the mansion. That's one thing I actually want to point out. Syrup Village was done beautifully. I prefer the Syrup Village arc in the live action than I do in the manga, because every other arc in the live action, I think, although it's really well done, the manga, it's the original material, and I love it for that. But Syrup Village was done so much better in the live action. It's not even a competition. I think Jacob as Usopp is just, he radiates cool. You can't make like a coward, like he feels like a coward, but he's still cool. Your man Jacob is just a really cool guy in his energy and just how he looks. He irradiates that cool energy, and so you can't. It's very hard for me to like be like, oh, Usopp, you're being a coward, because whenever he is a coward, he still feels like he's being less cowardly than it would have seemed in the show. And then the thing is with that is the storytelling moments for Usopp. My God, they are great. They have him dressed up a lot of the times, even when they get to the Baratier, because they spend a day at the Baratier, and they have him dressed up in like this red pirate outfit and stuff. And oh my god, just the way they have him telling stories throughout the show, and it's in the background while all this stuff is going on, like the Nami and Zoro are doing a drinking game. That's probably my favorite thing about this live action is their focus on the character interactions. Zoro and Nami have a lot more character building. Nami talks to Zoro a lot more because they are the first three and the first two crew members essentially, and they meet a lot earlier. And they have sort of a mutual respect because when they get captured by Boogie, they're stuck together, and we see all this stuff happen, and they have a plan to escape essentially, and they have a lot of mutual respect for each other. We see that in the Baratie with their drinking game. Nami even tells them a little bit about her past, not too much, because he still has doubts about her after her betrayal because he doesn't take any crap. He's not gonna go around waiting for you. So he's not gonna check on you. He's like, if you betray him, you're done, right? It's not until Luffy and Sanji are like, we gotta do something, that he's like, all right. But that is one thing, right? And that's really cool. I think Luffy and Usopp's dynamic is done brilliantly as well because we see that friendship. It feels so real, and that like even the way at the end of the series, which I really loved, was that they have a moment where Usopp's telling the story to the people of Cocoa Village, and they kind of doubt him a little bit, and Luffy goes, well done to Captain Usopp. We couldn't have done it without you, boy. Let's go, right? To big up the guy. They're all very supportive of each other, and I like that. I also love Sanji's British accent. Like, I don't know why it suits him so well, man. I really don't. I mean, obviously, if he had an Irish accent, it'd be just funny. He's trying to be real suave with that thick Dublin accent, which I'm not doing, by the way. I'm terrible with accents. You want to get accents done, go to my brother. He's brilliant with that, man. He's actually brilliant with that. But Sanji's British accent suits him so well. And just kind of the different vibe to him and Zeph, their whole relationship, is something I wasn't used to at first. I do like it now because it's more of a because we do see in the manga later on that it was like, Zeph really had his ideals stuck into Sanji, and the way they put it here in the live action is that he was a very strict parent because they weren't, at the end of the day, they weren't actually he didn't raise Sanji from the beginning, and he hadn't had kids before, so this was his first time raising a child, essentially. So he was a bit rough around the edges, but we do see that they do care for each other. It's honestly really well how they do everything, and everything's really interconnected. And Boogie is super important. I love Boogie's betrayal in this series because everything's a bit more serious, but also Boogie has Boogie has a lot more ambition than he did in the original series, but at the same time, man, his importance to the series, he's around a lot more. He's how they find Arlong. It's how Arlong finds them. It's honestly, I don't know. Boogie's actor is just great, but I know I said my favorite thing was the character dynamics, but I actually think my 100% favorite little thing about the show was the little flip of the bounty posters. They'd show up on screen like that, and the characters would just flip them away. That was so cool, man. Honestly. And they really make the warlords out to be such a powerful force because instead of having Don Krieg attack the Baratie, we have Mihawk completely take him out, and we have Mihawk get rid of him. And that's just it shows off Mihawk's strength so well. Mihawk's just destroying stuff left and right, like, you know what I mean? That's really really cool to see. 'Cause I love when Mihawk gets some stocks. You know what I mean? Because we see Shanks is actually betrayed quite badly in the later half of the show. Because when Mihawk comes to basically show the bounty poster off, Shanks is lying with a hangover, and Mihawk is all cool and all suave. It's a little different to the show where we saw him be a little more cool. He was like all put together, like, Hawkeye, you here for another duel? Now it's more like, oh, Hawkeye, you here for another duel, sort of thing. Like he was kind of drunk. You know what I mean? More so, it kind of portrayed that more so. So actually, we can tell the writers were Mihawk fans, lad. So Fraudhawk won't be showing up in the live action, I don't think. Um, yeah, I think this is a really good branching off point for the series for people. I think the slight discrepancies in the show are something you can kind of write off as you're reading the manga. I think it's brilliant. I think everyone who loved the live action should definitely check out the manga or the anime. Personally, I watched the anime, but I had a lot of time at that time of, things like that. But now if you're busy, I think the manga is the perfect, because the anime is quite bloated. They bloated out a lot, but the manga, you get exactly what you need, and it's beautiful, and you can just watch the best moments on YouTube or something, or you can find the episodes for the best moments and stuff that you really enjoy. I think the manga does a brilliant job for that. So if you're someone new who's just thinking, wasn't an actual fan, like think like about the series, all that jazz, I think it's definitely worth picking up the manga. I think you'll enjoy it. I can understand for wanting to wait for season 2 and all that stuff, but I think that you're better off just reading the manga. There's a few things you want to know ahead of time. So the Garp grandson stuff doesn't happen until later on. That was on put on here probably because it was just easier than actually having to adapt Logtown. Also, Kobe is less involved. That's one thing. Kobe is a lot more involved. That's the whole B plot throughout the series. How Kobe basically shows Garp that he's able to let Luffy go, essentially, right? And I think that's really good because we get to see Garp's insecurities about Luffy and how he doesn't want Luffy to die. He's scared of Luffy dying on his journey. He's not just immediately open to Luffy being a pirate. He's scared that he'll lose his grandson, like he thinks he's lost his son, right? Because obviously revolutionaries, he thinks eventually they're gonna get you, or as he feels like as he lost Roger, a dear friend of his. Do you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, that's really affecting Garp, and we see that in this show, in this live action version of the show. And the actor for Garp and the actor for Kobe pull off these scenes absolutely splendidly. I don't know. I couldn't think about what spectacular, right? They're absolutely brilliant on an entire. I absolutely love them. To be honest, I think they're really good for Garp's character. It could be used in a beautiful way if we ever get to Marineford. I'm telling you, if we ever get to Marineford, that stuff is going to be immaculate. I'm telling you right now, this build up is going to help so much. I'm not going to spoil stuff any further than I probably already have in this, just for those live action onlys. And the fact they can even say that is something I'm really looking forward to. Now, I know we have an actors and a writer strike going on now, and that's more important than One Piece in at any degree whatsoever. That's people's lives and livelihoods at stake. So if we don't get season 2 for a very long time, and it helps the actors get their better pay, their better rights, we got to accept it, and we're going to support it, because these actors are doing such a good job as we see in this material. And if they can get better, living scenarios out of this, and better rights when it comes to contracts and stuff like that, we'll always support it. Of course we will. But I also am excited for season 2, don't get me wrong. So I hope that it reaches a conclusion very soon, and that the actors and all that stuff come out of it happy. Obviously, I don't really care about the companies too much. Let's be real. The individuals at the top of the companies are going to be fine either way. So you can just care about the actors and the individuals involved rather than the companies themselves, because keynote companies are never your friend. It's never really a thing to be doing. And I don't mean to put it down. I just wanted to show that, I obviously do. Even if I'm talking about how hyped I am for season 2 and stuff like that, I understand that it would have been affected by the actor strike and the writer strike, which is obviously more important than our entertainment at the end of the day, because it's people's livelihoods. But aside from all that stuff, I wanted to say, I think their show of hockey was interesting. I don't know how they're going to do armament hockey. It feels like they might just do the way Oda says it is, and where they don't show it, but you just know it because he's able to punch through certain things. But observation hockey and Conquerors was done really well. It's like a zoom into the eye, and you see it, and they move, and it's really cool because we have Garp fighting Luffy. We don't even get that in the anime. This is a whole new live action exclusive thing. When they get to Arlong, Luffy and Garp fights Luffy for a bit to test him, and it's so cool. Oh my god. Garp is just flinging him through buildings, punching him through buildings, and he tries to rocket launch to Garp, and Garp just grabs his face and is like, "You're not ready." And then he grabs him up and he's like, "Do you even know what it likes to be a pirate? The dangers that you will face." And he goes, "Oh, oh, oh, oh." It was so good. It was brilliant. Garp's actor in particular, man, I felt like he was having a blast the whole way through. Him and Usopp's actors. Oh, obviously, Emily Rudd as well. I think she enjoyed it quite a lot, and I think I think a lot of these actors actually really enjoyed working on the show. You can feel it through their portrayals of these characters. They feel like they're actually having a lot of fun. Now I know it could just be a lot of marketing buzz because we see them doing stuff together, but man, it just feels like everyone enjoyed the production, and you love to feel that in a show. You know, you love to feel that people are enjoying themselves when it comes to this show, and that people are happy with how things turned out. I think personally, I have to tell you, it was so surprising because everyone in the show was just so fucking hot, man. Like every single character was just like, man, Zoro got me feeling some type of way. I'm not gonna lie, but we were loyal. We were loyal to Sanji, lads. We were loyal to Sanji. Sanji with that British accent got me swooning right back. You know what I'm saying? And then even there were, oh, man, I don't know, man. There was a lot of scenes. I was like, what's going on here? I'm feeling some sort of way. You know what I mean? Every single character, aside from, I have to say, I'm not aside from Helmeppo and Kobe, which I think is intentional because they haven't reached their kind of peaks yet. You know, Kobe hasn't become that person he wants to be yet. So they kind of, he's the only character in the entire show that kind of looks kind of, not he seems like he's framed pathetically until like the last two episodes where he's kind of framed with more prowess, you know, more strength. Yeah, I'm Kobe, boys. I actually really like the way they changed it as well, because we're going to be talking about a lot of the changes. They have Helmeppo and Kobe basically part of the B plot. They become friends slowly, and how Helmeppo knows more about the world, but he's still a bit more spoiled than Kobe, and how they play off each other until the end. There's a thing where they're drinking together and they're talking and they're kind of having a heart to heart, and I love that stuff. And at the end, where they're like, Garf's like, my training is going to be tough on you two. Are you ready for it? They're like, yes, sir. And they do a little fist bump, bro. I was like, bro, best buds for life, they are. 100%. I loved it. As a One Piece fan, this entire show just got me so hyped. I have to say, right? Not minor spoilers. Spoilers for season 2 and the show as a whole. There's a person that shows up who has fire powers. I'm not going to say who it is or spoil any things for it, but you'll know who it is if you watch the show. And this person, I thought he was going to make a cameo at the end of the show, even in like a flashback or like a thing where it's like elsewhere in the Grand Line, and you just see someone walking by, and he's like, and he just sees the wanted poster. Actually, yeah, they could have added that in where he just sees the wanted poster and he's like, "Ah, good for you, Luffy." And he just we see the back of him, and he has a cross with an old man's face on it. You know what I mean? That's the sort of stuff. That's the sort of stuff I was kind of expecting. Instead, we got a cutaway scene to Smoker, which I think builds up well because we're still gonna have Smoker probably in Alabasta. And I actually like that. You know what? Leave that fireman till the season 2 and have it be a big focus. I'm actually really excited for that. You know, big man. I wonder who's gonna play him, to be fair. And the more I think about it though, if Dragon did have an actor confirmed, where the hell is it? Like, I didn't see him at all. I don't know if I'm blind. He must have been the execution scene. I must have missed him in the execution scene. But that's why I thought maybe he'll show up at some point, or maybe when he sees him laughing, he might see Dragon, and that's when we see it. Like, I thought that's what the cutaway was going to be. When I was watching the series and I saw Garp have Luffy by the thing, I was like, okay, the cutaway scene is going to be Dragon holding Luffy's bounty or something. Because before that, I thought, oh, the cutaway scene is going to be Ace. But then throughout the show, I was like, oh, it's definitely going to be Dragon. But it wasn't. Still, though, I'm excited to see what they do with these characters. A lot of people are saying they seem to be planning it up to Ennis Lobby, where they might end it. I don't know, man. I know they're probably not gonna, like, if we talk about, regardless of real world situations right now, we have talking about the future of this series. I feel like they're just gonna go as far as it can make money. Like, if it makes money up to Marineford, it makes money up to Marineford. You know, I don't think they're gonna stop it. I think they know that regardless of if they do it well in the coming, they have an audience now, and if they keep up the same style, and as long as they get like those cool moments right in the live action format, they'll have clips and they'll have notoriety for that form for a very long time. And the live action is going to outlive the series at this point because we're probably going to get a season every 3 years. Obviously right now we have real life stuff going on, so it might be 3 5 years, but I'd say we're gonna get a season every 2 to 3 years. Assuming tomorrow all these issues are wrapped up. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like that's a decent amount of time, and I feel like they'd be planning ahead, like the script writing would be sort of planned a little bit, like the rough outlines. They might have not planned the individual scripts for the episodes, but they know what they're covering, how they're covering it, such, like what they're changing. I'd say for season 2 anyway. I feel like going up to NS Lobby would be interesting though, because you could end it on a thing where it's like, you know what they could do actually? They could do 4 seasons up till NS Lobby, and they could do like the end of NS Lobby is like the end of NS Lobby is a big thing where you have the fight between the fire guy and the other guy, and then the final shot of that season is the hat, and then we cut away to One Piece live action the movie, Marineford, coming in 2027, something like that, you know what I mean? Or like coming in 2030, whenever we get the 4th season. Coming in 2032, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I just think they might, if it gets that successful, they might turn Marineford into a movie. They actually might do that. Because they're definitely gonna skip a lot of it. They'll probably still have Amazon Lily. They'll probably skip out on Impel Down. I could see them skipping out on that just because they could bring Boa straight to Marineford and have Luffy get there somehow. Or maybe not because they have to get Jinbei, but hey, they changed a lot of stuff around. They can change it. They can change this, right? So I'm excited. I really am. I don't know what they're gonna do. I have these ideas in my head, but I think that after this showing, I'm very much confident in the future of One Piece as an outside source of media, whether it's in the case for a live action, a sequel, different sorts of media. I think Oda has a lot more care for the series and how it's done than a lot of other authors. And even if he ends up retiring after he finishes One Piece and they make a sequel without him, I do think they're going to have to check, are you okay with this? Like, a phone call every week being like, we're doing this, we're doing that. Are you grounded with that? Like, here are the outlines of it. And I think he'll be a very open person when it comes to it. He'll tell us what he thinks about it or stuff like that. And he'll be honest with it. So I think One Piece will be in safe hands. And as a community, I think that's going to lead to some good things. We might not be happy about a lot of things. They might change a few things around that people aren't happy with. But I'm going to be honest, as long as they give Robin that cowboy hat, I'm not going to complain. Let's be real. And I'm excited for the future of the live action, I have to say. And I think, if nothing else, this has given me a lot of confidence in Matt Owens and everyone else on that Netflix team and the amazing actors that have brought this stuff to life in every single way. Thank you for making a great experience in terms of a One Piece live action. I really enjoyed it. I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, and I'm very happy. I'm very surprised, but I'm also very happy with how it turned out, and I'm excited for the future of the series. And with that being said, if you did enjoy the live action, make sure to catch up on the manga, as I keep saying. But also, if you enjoyed this video, let me know what you thought about the live action. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know. I want some different opinions. Let me know. Let me know your true thoughts down in the comments below. And with that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.